Hey, Linda.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am like not sweating because we have a overcast kind of day, and you know it's not overly hot or humid, but I am getting really excited.
You are? Is something going on this week?
Yeah, Road at Home starts.
I know it starts on Friday, huh?
I can't wait.
It's exciting. Did you know you could still sign up for lectures
Oh,
and
okay.
classes without kits?
Yep, yep. You know what? I have two of those.
You have two.
I have two. I have Teaching 101, which is, I think, really important for those folks who are thinking about starting to teach at a quilt shop or maybe with quilt guilds or evolving teachers that would like to go further. And I also have a class on Intro to EQ, EQ8, that they can work along with me, and I can use a Mac or a PC, so I can go both ways.
That's important to know.
It is.
So what's the temperature outside? So I got one for you today.
I think it's like 84 out there. It's not. It's not.
Oh,
Yeah.
so right now it's about 69, 70 degrees. It's overcast by about 3 o'clock today. It's supposed to be sunny and 79 degrees outside.
That should be a nice day.
It's a gorgeous day out here. We have the May gray that comes in and out. You know, we get the overcast in, and then it's sunny in the afternoons. It's gorgeous. Southern California this time of year is just beautiful.
I think Southern California in January is even better.
It is. Now, before we introduce our next guest, I have a mention from one of our sponsors. So, Handy Quilter is the sponsor for Road at Homemade this year. Did you know that?
I did not.
Not only do they have a fantastic lineup of curated classes, the wonderful people at Handy Quilter actually went through and curated classes with their educators to make sure that the long-arm classes for Road at Homemade were fantastic and diverse. But they have a special message for all of you. If you've been interested in a new long arm, now it's time to get quilting. Handy Quilter has a wide variety of long arms available for all types of quilters. The 18-inch HQ Capri is a stationary long arm that makes free motion quilting easier than you'll get perfect stitches thanks to HQ Insights. Table with built-in stitch regulator. Reach out to us at sales@handyquilter.com or visit your local HQ retailer. Now through May 24th, we're offering financing specials and free shipping on all new long arms. So you too can buy a new Handy Quilter long arm.
Yeah, and now's the time to even think about it because all these people have been home with COVID making quilt tops. So maybe you want to start quilting for them.
Well, and you can buy your long arm now and learn the very basics, and you can take classes on those Handy Quilter machines at Road to California in January.
That would be awesome.
It would be. So who's our guest, Linda? Because Jillian has the wrong name on my script.
Ha! She's probably like my shipping department. She works for beer.
That would actually be cheaper than what we have to pay her.
I hope he's not watching. We have a fellow New Yorker who is now a transplant to Texas. And she has a new book out, and she's going to tell us all about that. And she is one of our first interviews for our in-person Road to California teachers. So we can bring in Teri Lucas.
Let's bring Teri on, Jillian. Hi, Teri.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Linda.
So what do you think of Texas?
I love Texas, probably for the same reason Matt loves this time of year in SoCal. Like the weather is normally gorgeous, and there's lots of sunshine. But this week we're getting lots of thunderstorms. It's exciting. Tornado watches, that kind of thing.
How long have you been in Texas?
Just a little over a year. We officially moved here in April of last year, and we arrived like mid-April, so it's a little over a year.
Have you seen an armadillo yet?
On the side of the road.
That is one of the things I always look for in Texas are armadillos.
Yes, yes. My husband sees them a little bit more because of where he works. He works. His job. He takes care of partisan property, so he gets to see them occasionally. I, on the other hand, usually see them on the side of the road.
We had one under the neighbor's shed.
You have armadillo? Well, file that under you learn something new every day. Linda has armadillos in Florida. Who knew?
They don't make it out here to California.
No. They only have some, they have limited range. So they're a little bit more desert than prairie.
Do you find Texas different than New York?
Well, yes. Where I lived in New York, it was I lived in New York City. I lived in the Bronx, which is very much part of New York City. And so like we had big skyline and we had, buildings that were close together and we could hear our neighbors quite frequently. And here in Texas, we don't hear our neighbors because we're not attached to them, on the sides. And the sky is really big and the sunrises and the sunsets are just like amazing. And the moonrise, like I get to see the moonrise where I really didn't get to see that in the city. So
yeah, it's definitely interesting moving to a new place.
It is.
So are you excited about coming out to Road in person?
You know what? I really am. Road is one of my very favorite shows to teach at. My first experience teaching there was absolutely fabulous. I had full classes and I had great students. So I'm really looking forward to that part of it. I also am, I like the weather that time of year, but I just love teaching. And the whole experience of teaching at Road was, it was just great from like, getting all the contract details worked out. And then just, being in the classroom, if I needed anything, people were really responsive. So yeah, it was fantastic. So
what kind of classes will you be teaching?
Well, I have 3 different classes. I have 2 beginner free motion machine quilting classes, and that is actually one of my very favorite classes to teach. Partly because I get to teach all the things that when I was learning how to quilt that I wanted to, that would have made a huge difference and would have helped kind of it smooth out that learning curve a little bit. Like needles, thread, tension, that kind of thing. So I teach all of that in the beginner class. And then we get to stitching. And the exercises in the beginner class get us to a point where we sort of feel comfortable moving around on the machine. For students who, some students kind of go a little faster. So if they're moving a little faster and I can demonstrate something for them really quickly, then I will just kind of keep them moving so that they're still engaged and still enjoying the class. For students who are having a little bit of trouble or having kind of a hard time, I will slow them down, assure them that they're doing fine, and that this isn't, all of us in the classroom are not in a race. We're all learning at our own speed. So it is definitely one of my favorite classes to teach. This year, I'm adding a class called Split the Complement, where we're going to dive a little bit more into thread work, and we're going to add ruler work to on your home sewing machine to this. So this is going to be a fabulous way to start playing with rulers on your home sewing machine and try different threads that maybe you haven't tried for your free motion machine quilting before. Then my other favorite class to teach is Doodle Your Way to Better Quilting. And in this class, we're going to take a number of quilt blocks, we're going to break them down and actually practice doodling with both our dominant and our non-dominant hands, because whether we are quilting on a domestic or quilting on a long arm, we use both of our hands. So what we're working on in that class is developing our eye-hand coordination to help us get to that point in quilting where we kind of go into autopilot and don't think about it so much anymore. So it's really fun. And for that class, I tend to bring like every marker and pencil and Sharpie and whatever that I own, so that you get a feel for, in using these, the different weights of thread. So if you want to practice something, like, this is the way to practice it. So yeah, this is going to be fun.
So you said it's a beginner. But now, are there any special like gizmos, gadgets, or gotta haves that they need?
Well, for beginner free motion machine quilting, the one thing that I always recommend, let me see if I can, nope, I don't actually have it on my machine at the moment. The one thing that I recommend for any beginner quilter, and they don't necessarily need to bring it to road, we'll have machines in the classroom, and the machine providers are really great working with us teachers. So we'll have an open toe machine quilting foot that we will use to help both see the stitching visually and also kind of define the space as we're stitching. The thing that they want to bring, that the students want to bring to class, is just being ready and willing to have fun. Yes, we're doing this because we want to improve our machine quilting skills, but we're still having fun. It's all, any class that we're taking is really all about having fun.
Good. I agree with that. 100%.
So these classes are coming out of your book, aren't they?
Yes, they actually are. Guess what? You'll be surprised. What? I have a copy right here.
You did? No way.
Yes. Did you get your copy, Matt?
Did I get a copy, Jillian?
I think so.
I don't remember.
Well, let me know.
I will let you know.
The book is called Color, Thread, and Free Motion Quilting, Learn to Stitch with Reckless Abandon. And a lot of what I talk about in the beginner free motion quilting class actually ended up in there. And then there's plenty of stuff to grow on. So one of the things that I did in the book was I made 9 or 10 color wheels using the same thread from color wheel to color wheel, so that on the different backgrounds, you could see what the color actually looks like and how it actually changes on the surface. So when you're planning your quilting or when you're choosing thread for your quilts, you have a good idea of what it might look like on your quilt. Also, I don't know if I told you, but my favorite tool in quilting is a seam ripper, because it is the eraser of the quilting world.
Ooh, your favorite tool should be the Road to California seam ripper.
You have a seam ripper and I don't have it?
I do, and it's a very nice seam ripper. Stevie will have to demo it one day.
Oh.
It's got like a really, really big handle on it.
Uh-huh.
So it like holds well in your hand. I think Jillian, oh, there's one over there. Is there, Jillian? Oh, yeah, here we go. She's going to throw it at me. Oh, don't throw it like that.
Good job, Jillian.
See? It's the Road to California seam ripper with a big handle.
Oh, I like that. And how fine is
Isn't
the
that
tip?
nice? It's
that's fine.
Yep.
That'll be great for taking out silk and micro quilter. That'll be fantastic.
Yes. Yeah. It is a fantastic seam ripper. So you too, favorite tool of the quilting world is a Road to California seam ripper.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is now my absolute favorite seam ripper.
We'll throw it in the mail. Jillian will get it in the mail today.
Yay! I love getting stuff in the mail.
So Teri, this is
Ma'am.
your first book, okay?
Yes, it is.
And you're excited. How did it feel? This might be a trick question. How did it feel when you had the book was done and you put everything in the mail and you were done?
Oh my gosh, that was like the best moment ever, because I think I don't know if everybody works this way, but I'm one of those people who does my homework at the last minute. And so like the 2.5 weeks prior to my deadline, like all of a sudden all the words started coming together, all the stitching got done. And I was working as a sales rep at the time, so I'm like, I'm in my hotel room with all my samples laid out on the bed, all the quilts that had to go, and I'm labeling everything and making sure it's pinned to it and getting it in as many boxes. Like I had boxes, and then getting that in the mail, and I'm like, oh, okay, that part's done. Like that was the best.
And what about when you saw it on like Amazon? Was that like, oh my God?
Well, it's way back the first time I taught at Rhode, I met Keith Dahmer, who I've been his quilter. We've quilted and competed together, and Keith is, in some regards, part of the impetus behind the book. Like he gets mentioned right in the introduction of the book, and he actually emailed me and let me know that the book was up on Amazon. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing since sliced cheese. And so I actually went over to Amazon and shared it all over social media, because I was like, oh my gosh, like I've been wanting to share this because the cover is absolutely amazing. So I was so impressed with I just love the cover of the book. It really kind of captures everything that's in there.
Yeah, it was like always a big deal for me to see it. Like, oh my God, it's on Amazon.
Yeah,
like, you made it when you're on Amazon.
Yeah. It's that part was really fun. The other fun part was during our move from New York to Texas, my husband and I actually lived in a hotel room for 4.5 months. So the boxes arrived at the hotel, and I'm like, I'm having my husband shoot this at the window of the hotel room because that was the only place that we could get really good light. I'm like,
wow.
Yeah, it's fun.
So where are you going from here?
Let's see. I am working on, we're still kind of traveling right now is a little bit challenging. I'm sure neither one of you have experienced that at all. So traveling is a little challenging. I am teaching locally. I am available for online classes. And my next big show is actually Rhode. So I'm Rhode is it.
So do you have another book in the works?
Oh, oddly enough, yes. Tomorrow morning, I am meeting with C&T again to talk about how the process of loading book stuff up into their system actually works. So I met with them a couple of weeks ago. We have a whole book layout. You might be surprised that it's on quilting again. So weird. And so I don't know when it'll come out. I don't know anything about it in that regard, other than it will be on Free Motion Machine Quilting. And oddly enough, I'm probably going to do something in the beginner realm. I'm starting to film for Creative Spark classes, which is C&T's online platform.
If anybody has any questions for Teri, put them in the chat so she can answer them.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer whatever.
So what kind of sewing machines do you use?
Well, in my house, I have Berninas. I have my original Bernina that I bought 27 years ago. Yeah, that sounds about right. 27 years ago, back in 94, 95, somewhere around there. Um, and then I also, right behind me, you can kind of see it. I have the Handy Quilter Moxie that I'm learning to long arm quilt on. So I have both, and I'm learning what the differences between home machine and long arm are.
The
Jill,
Handy Quilter Moxie's a neat machine.
You know what? It totally is. First of all, it was very simple to put together, and I think Handy Quilter machines, long arms, are fairly straightforward putting them together. And then getting everything, the harder part for me, because I'm not I'm sort of techie, but not really mechanically inclined. So getting it level after putting down new flooring, new carpet in our house is a little bit of a challenge. But using the machine has been, there's a learning curve, but using the machine has been kind of fun. And Jill's asking if I have samples of quilts that I've done. I do, actually. Would you like to see a few? Would you like to? Well, before I start showing, do you want to see color wheels, or do you want to see something that we might work on in class?
Ooh, I don't know, Linda. What do you think?
I know, I'm reading Jill's next question here. I think what you would do in class.
Okay, let's see what you can do in class.
Okay, so my beginner free motion sample is hanging up somewhere, and I have no idea where it is. So part of what we're going to do in class is we are going to take a quilt block, kind of like a 9 patch, and we are going to fill it in with stitches. In the beginner class, we're going to do a little bit, it's going to be directed, where we're going to be doing some straight lines in different directions. So it'll be vertically, horizontally, on the diagonal, a little bit crazy, and then we'll get into some curvy things. One of the things that I teach, one of the things that I learned very early on, is that there are only 2 quilting motifs, which I know you're gonna go, this is a little nuts. It's straight lines and it's curves, and they're both hard. Okay. Oh, you want to see the color wheels? I will definitely show you the color wheels. All right. So before I go into the color wheels, another option in the split the complement class will be doing something like this. So this is kind of like an Ohio Star, hole in the barn door kind of thing. And one of the things that we'll be looking at is stitch density. So like if you stitch really close, what does the thread look like? If you stitch a little further apart, what does the quilt look like? And I'm gonna give you guys the option of doing a 9 patch, a New York Beauty block that we're gonna draw onto our fabric. So if you want to see the color wheels, and I'm not sure how well this red is going to show up, so I'm just going to ask, because red and cameras are not always the easiest things to see. But this is the red color wheel, and from color wheel to color wheel, they're all different, which was ended up being easier to do than anything else. So that's red. Orange is shiny, and so it might also be a little bit hard. So what we can do is I'm going to put the color wheels up on my website later this afternoon. So here's orange. And again, it's a little hard to see because I have a light right in front of me. But the fun part about this is that you start to see that certain colors start standing out and certain colors go into the background. And it's different from block to block. Now, I don't know about you, but yellow can be kind of fun and challenging and exciting. And so when I got to yellow decided it had to be its own thing. And I'm going the wrong way. There we go. Yellow had to be its own thing. And all of the stitching kind of changed and morphed. And instead of doing the color wheel, the colors straight out, the colors go around this way. So, when we're working on a quilt, sometimes the colors aren't necessarily all in one spot. So we might change them around and go in different directions. one of my favorites is this green one. And one of the things that I like about that is I started kind of making the wheel shapes just slightly differently. And so the lines aren't straight out. And if you think about our quilts, our lines are not always straight. Sometimes they're curved, so we want to make them a little curvy. Now, I have a love and affection for blue because you can see behind me one of the quilts that will be in the special exhibit. And so here's blue. Here we go. We'll get that in there. And again, the shapes of each one of the wedges is a little bit different. And one of the things that I loved about doing this was trying to figure out the space and how tight to do the stitching. If you've ever met me in person and asked me my favorite colors, you know that purple and orange are it. And so when I got to purple, the color wheel had to look like this, which is, here we go. There we go. Got it in, which is a little bit different, but it also takes advantage of the fact that color, sometimes color kind of weaves in and out or kind of spills over into the others. Then here's blue, black. This is actually black. And one of the things that I love about black is that, thank you, Jill. That's very sweet. One of the things that I love about black is that you really get to see a lot of the color, but what you don't get to see, which I found very odd, the blues kind of tended to go into the background. Now, I don't know, when I was writing and doing all of these quilt blocks, all of the color wheel samples, I did, the red into purple and, and covered all of that. And then I decided to do black, white, and gray. Well, the black one is the black one and the white one have all the same colors. And this is actually one of my favorites too, because it looks like somebody took a big drop of something and it sort of went splat. I don't know if it was in a hotel room or if it was in the vortex that sort of happens in our sewing room sometimes. Between the time I packed everything up and was doing all of my tags, the gray color wheel went missing. And I was completely freaking out because, here it is, it's my deadline and I have to move everything. So I sent this, which was actually one of the samples that I sent as the proposal for this book. So this was actually kind of fun to do it because in here too, I have a lot of different stitching motifs and thread. You might be a quilter if you've got thread all over your samples. And there's lots of different stitching motifs in here. Now, one thing that I did do for this was all of the thread that I used for this project actually came out of my drawers. So I didn't go out and buy anything new. I didn't, so it's just stuff that I had on hand. So here's a hot tip for, machine quilters. Try new things and buy them. The worst thing that can happen is that the first time you try it, you don't like it. The second time you try it, it's perfect. So
I enjoy looking at the color wheels and how the background, the fabric choice versus the thread choice changes. Even though they're similar dynamics, it changes so much based on the thread color to the fabric color.
Yeah, that was really interesting. As I was doing the stitch out, and it actually kind of helped me clarify some of the writing, because one of the biggest catchphrases that I kind of learned at that point is that color plays with us. So when we're looking at a quilt and we're looking at the actual decorative stitching, if it was done in a slightly different color, sometimes it would actually kind of help enhance the quilts. And one of the quilts that I'm going to bring for the special exhibit is called Wanderlost. And when you get up close to it, and it's okay if people kind of get up close to it, the background thread on this white background is actually a light blue. So when you're standing back from it, what it allows you to do is actually see the quilting. Like the quilting becomes really present to you, but you're not quite sure why until you get up to it and go, oh, it's blue. So, color can actually play with us and help us show off our quilting really well. Jill, that is actually a great question, and here's how I'm going to answer it. Her question is, what brand of quilting thread do I normally use? I use good quality thread. And by that, I mean, there are brands that I use, but as long as it is consistent, as long as the filament itself is consistent and I'm not getting any slubs, there's no thin spots, there's no thick spots, I'll use it. As far as brands go, I probably have a preference for Superior. That's mostly what ended up, but I also like Aurifil. I like Wonderfil. I like Glide. Part of it depends on color, and part of it depends on the weight and what I'm going to use it for and what I want to actually stand out.
Yeah, good answer. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So how hard is it to use a handy quilter?
Here, you know what? I love Handy Quilter. I'm gonna reframe the question. How hard is it to learn to long arm?
There we go.
Right. Okay. So, Matt and Linda, I have been a domestic machine quilter for, I think, 16 or 17 years now. So I've been doing this for a little while. I'm just learning how to use the long arm. Like, I'm just hardcore seriously learning how to use the long arm. I've been flirting with it for probably 8 or 9 years because, I don't know about you, but I am not getting any younger, and crawling around the floor, basting quilts. I know, Linda, I'm shocked by this too, but crawling around on the floor and basting quilts has gotten harder and harder. And, partly I just don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. So there are a couple of differences between domestic machine quilting and long arm quilting. Part of it is how you do it. On a long arm, you're essentially moving the paper over the pencil, moving the pencil over the paper. So here, your pencil's here and your paper's here, and you're doing what you're doing. But what I've recently come to understand, and this is partly in doing this for a little while now, is that one of the biggest adjustments that you have to make is how you can use the space well. Because no matter what you're doing on a long arm, you're working in a space that is so wide by so long, or whatever the width of your quilt is. On a home sewing machine, you're working right here. You're essentially working on a pot holder size bit. Then you're managing the quilt yourself. So I use my shelf quite adequately. I know how to shove a quilt into the machine so that I am working right here. And, I know that no matter what I'm doing, like every 20 to 30 minutes, I sort of need to stop and just kind of do some exercises to relax my muscles. So part of it is, one question I would ask is, are you more comfortable doing this, so moving your quilt, or are you more comfortable doing this, moving the head of the machine? And the other question that I would ask is, how big are the quilts that you're making? Part of it, I think, is just for a long time, I've been making samples, so my quilts have been smaller. So working on my home machine is fine. But there's a quilt that I want to have ready for road that, I don't know if it's going to be a competition quilt or something else, but there's a quilt that I want to have ready for road that is going to be like about 110 inches wide by at least that long. And it's going to be a play on another quilt that's actually in the book called Split Complementarity. And I'm going to end up doing it on the long arm, only because, or at least getting it started on the long arm. So it might actually be both, because that is a honkin' big quilt. And I've done something almost that large. But I mean, that's big. It's like twice my size. I'm 60 inches tall. It's twice my size. So, managing it on a home sewing machine, I think I want to go to the long arm for this. So how big are your quilts? And, think about how you like to move. Some people do better on a long arm than they ever will on a home sewing machine. And some people do better on a home sewing machine than they ever will on a long arm. And part of it's about how they think. And I'm a weirdo because I can go both ways.
Okay.
That was a lot of information.
It was a lot of information.
Yeah. So are we ready to move on to Stevie?
Are we?
Do we
Teri,
know
do you have anything else?
Oh, did I tell you my favorite feature in the book?
No, you didn't.
Oh, okay. So first of all, I have a book. All right. Secondly, in the back of the book, there are free motion quilting motifs that are in here that are, first of all, this is one of the reasons why I just love this book. They're hand drawn, and you can actually tell that they're hand drawn. And I really wanted them to be hand drawn because I didn't want them looking like all perfect. And because partly my quilting's not perfect. So they're that. But C&T has given purchasers of the book the opportunity, the right to copy those pages so that you can practice your machine quilting motifs. So it's one of my favorite features of the book.
That is neat.
Good.
Perfect. Well, Teri, we will see you in January, if not sooner. And you can register for Teri's classes when registration reopens in August. Yep, August. I mean, nodded it is August. So class registration will reopen then, and then that's when you'll be able to re-sign up, or actually sign up if you haven't. If you already signed up, you're good to go, but you can sign up for Teri's classes then. So Teri, thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful to see you and chat with you. Lots of great material.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And up next, we have Stevie, and she's reviewing some really interesting stuff today. So let's get Stevie up for her product review, Jillian.
Hello.
Hello.
It is 84 degrees in Leesburg, Virginia. So we match as far as temperature is concerned. But I we're talking about the great weather. It wrote it in person in January. I can remember one time Matt's grandmother called me on the phone. She was so excited. She said, "I can't wait for the quilters to come because it's so beautiful here. You can see the snow on Mount Baldy." And I said, "Carolyn, those of us coming from the East Coast or from Colorado, we don't want to see your snow. We want the sunshine." She was excited about snow, and we're like, "Oh, please don't come. We don't want to have to shovel our car out."
The first time I was out there, I thought it was pretty neat looking at the snow on the mountains.
Way in the mountains, yes. Well, they need snow for the ski resorts up in the Big Bear area, Lake Arrowhead area. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about sticky stuff. I'm not going to do glue because that's another whole episode. But I'm talking about, well, we're going to start with something you can go to the hardware store and buy, and that is tape. So there's a couple of different kinds of tape that I use in my sewing room. One of them is duct tape. This is actually real duct tape, but this one says it's duct like a quack quack, and duct tape is really DUCT for ductwork in your house, and they wrap, those people that do that wrap this stuff around. So this is good if you're going to a retreat and you want to hang up a design wall, and they would let you do that on the wall because you'd need to check. It is not anything I would put on fabric. It's not anything I would wrap my cords in or anything like that, but it is pretty cool stuff. Also, I bought this dry erase tape. You can write on it with a dry erase marker and then just wipe it off. I have not used this yet, but I know that I need this. I just know that I need this.
And that's in a hardware store?
Yep.
And what do
Yep,
you write on it with?
a dry erase marker,
Oh,
just like a whiteboard marker. I can see putting this on storage boxes, and then when you're when you finish the project, you actually can wipe it off and put another project name on it. One of the other kinds of tape I use is clear medical tape, and it looks like this. Comes in a package like this. This actually came out the drawer, and I'm trying to keep it together. This drugstore. The reason I use this is because that it is clear, but it is rough on one side. So you can see it's pretty clear, so you can see through it. I put this on the back of my rulers, the small ones. I don't have a problem with the larger ones, but I also put it on the back of templates. Now, I am a lucky girl because on Saturday, I got to take Linda's class. And I see the quilt right behind Linda, but I can't remember the name of it.
That is Castleton Corner.
Yes.
And that's named for a neighborhood in Staten Island, New York.
Okay. So here in Virginia, we could call it all kinds of corners, but okay. So here is one of the templates for Linda's class. You can see I have a piece of that tape. I can see the fabric through it if I needed to. And for the companion piece, I've got tape there and there. Again, I can see through it, but it's where you can when you scratch it, you can hear it. It's got some grip to it. But probably the thing that the quilters use the most in the tape line is painter's tape. Okay, so painter's tape comes in a variety of widths, but you can use it for a lot of things. You can mark your block placement for rows, like this is row 1, block 1, row 1, block 2, that sort of thing. You can use it to mark lines. You can put it on your quilt and use that as a guide for quilting. I would suggest that you figure out the math and do it. Add the width of your presser foot to your measurement, because you don't want to sew alongside the tape, because you end up hitting the tape and then you've got sticky little blue things in your seam. And yeah, they'll come out easy enough, but who wants to sit there with a pair of tweezers? Okay. You can make notes to yourself with this. And like for machine setting, if you're doing a project, you're going between like a blanket stitch if you've set it something and then a straight stitch, or write down the settings that go on your machine and just stick this thing to the front of your machine. It'll peel off. It doesn't leave a residue. You can do the same thing with marking rulers with it, and you can bundle cords. So I think this is just a wonderful thing. My travel machine, I wrap the power cord and the foot cord up in this tape, because I know I can take it off and it's not going to be sticky under there, and it's not going to leave a residue like masking tape. Masking tape will dry out and then it leaves the glue stuff to whatever you put it on.
Yeah.
I know that because we have masking boxes in the basement that my husband packed up in 1978 with green masking tape. And now the tape is pretty much gone, but all that residue is still there. Now, he has not opened those boxes since 1978 either. But that's another whole episode. So, okay. So as I said, I tend to use this 1-inch tape more than anything, but it also comes in, I guess this is 2-inch. And then it comes in all of these little tiny. This one is really tiny, but Even for hand quilting, if you're trying to, like, a friend and I are working on a city quilt now, and we're trying to do hand, like, big stitch a 1/2 inch apart. So I would use this one because this is a 1/2 inch tape, so I don't have to mark it. And my finger sometimes is a 1/2 inch, sometimes it's not, depending on what I've been doing to my fingers. So anyway, great thing. The next sticky thing that I use a lot is label paper. It's what address labels are done with. Do not buy the ones that say removable, because they remove so fast that you might as well not put them on. They don't stick very well. And I don't even know why this is still up in my sewing room, but it is, because I know that I'm going to use it. So, okay, I buy 2 kinds of label paper. I buy the ones that are, whoops, let me get this open, that come in a sheet, so they perforate like this. And let's see, and then they're this size. So I use that for something that I'll show you in just a minute. But I also buy them in full sheets. Now, why they call this label paper, and I don't know why anybody want to make a label quite this big, but this is 1 sheet of 8.5 by 11. There's no perforations in it at all. What I use this for is I print, if I'm doing applique, I run this through my printer. And so here is my pattern.
Oh.
So I can cut it out piece by piece. But the nice thing about this, if you separate the pieces out, now you can't do it with as dense a pattern as this, but let's say I have a leaf. So I had traced this leaf. Let me get this off my lap. So here's the piece that I cut out, and I only cut into it right here, and then I taped it back together, because now this is my little window. So I can take this fabric and I can move it around. So this fabric has got, whoops, this fabric has got stripes in it, but I may want, a little dark spot in there. So I can keep moving this around until I like it where it goes. And then I take the backing off my leaf shape, and I got that upside down. Here it is. So then I can put this on here, take this off, and then that was the piece I tore off. It wasn't the label part. You still have to have some brains to do this, So, okay, so this goes in there like that. So then this is stuck on my fabric. I just have to cut out with the seam allowance. And it's placed perfectly where you want it to on that fabric when you're trying to do some sort of fussy cutting.
That I am impressed.
Well, I'm very impressive,
I am impressed.
Yeah. Okay. So the labels that are what you would think of as address label size, I use those to mark rows. Right now I'm working on a temperature quilt. So I have this little schematic for, if it's, for the temperatures, this is 100 degrees. These are the 90 degrees, 80, and on up. So I've been keeping track of temperature every day. So in a box, I have, this happens to be the temperature for 70 degrees to 79 degrees. But I have these stacked up in a box. I don't know that I can show that to you without dumping it, but, well, you get the idea.
Oh my.
This is for -0, and I didn't cut that out because I'm hoping it doesn't get there. It's not going to do that today, I know that. So, and then when, what the quilt is that it is a square, which is the low temperature, and a circle, which is always solid, which is the high temperature. Okay, so when I cut these out, I don't want to have to go back to my guide and figure them out. So I cut a little piece of label paper, the label, and I put it on both pieces. So that when I fuse this to here, then I'll take one of these off and just keep labeling it. I still have to machine stitch around, but I need to keep these two married up. So that's the easiest way to do it, because otherwise, the fan turns on and they all blow off someplace. And I guess it's in another box. But I take this label paper and I just write on it for the month. I just 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, and then I go down. And then I cut them apart as I'm putting them on. But I have to have two numbers because I've got the high temperature and the low temperature. But I also do this with piece blocks if I'm trying to keep them organized in some way, or if it's a block that you're cutting out, doing a repeat block quilt and it's the same fabrics, then you might cut out a whole lot of them and then you label them as to what piece number they are. So anyway, you need to go to the office supply store, the hardware store, and then you go to the quilt shop. So, okay.
That was great. Okay, what is next?
Next is the Road to California Finished Projects Gallery. We have 2 more finished projects today. These look, we have one from 2020, one from 2011.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an oldie but a goodie. All right, Jillian, throw them up. So this one, the quilter's name is Cheryl. The project is an Esterita Austin pet portrait. So she took this class with Esterita. She finished in 2020, raw edge applique. Teeny pieces of Zora Orzo.
It's like side of rice. Orzo's are rice.
Oh, I know. No, Orzo's pasta, but the sentence doesn't make sense. So wow, the size of the pieces must be of Orzo. That's a beautiful picture.
She did a great job on those eyes. Wow.
She did. There's 2 things. Well, actually, a few things that bother me sometimes about art quilts when we're drawing quilts: hands and faces. And this is a good pet face.
Very good.
This is very, very good. All right, Jillian, let's see the next one. All right, so this one, Cindy made this one. The project is called Hanky Panky. It's many years ago. I've never missed a road. It's hard to say what year. I think it was 2011. The amazing and very fun teacher was Cindy Brick.
Oh.
Has been a while since we've had Cindy teach for us, but that is a wonderful completed project there that you did with Cindy.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So if you want your road finished projects to be featured here on It's So Road, Jillian will throw up the link to the Google form and you can submit them and we will put them up here to talk about. The more we get, the more we'll feature. So keep submitting them and we'll keep talking about them.
Absolutely.
So next week, who are you two going to be interviewing? Because I'm not going to be here.
That means we're unsupervised.
Oh no. Yes, you are.
Oh, we are.
Yeah, we could have many people here.
Uh-oh.
We have Janet Lutz, who's coming, and she's going to talk to us about Quilter's Trek. When you go to some of the quilt shops, and it used to be row by row, and you get pattern quilts, they have morphed that into Quilter's Trek, and she's going to talk to us all about that.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, she's pretty interesting.
That's like a nationwide quilt run almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, man, I'm missing a good one, aren't I?
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
But that was your choice.
No,
no,
actually,
it was
that
your
was
wife's
my
choice.
wife's choice. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
my
and
wife
don't
is.
forget what's coming in June.
Oh yes, she's already preparing all the ways she plans on embarrassing me.
Oh, I hope my husband's not listening.
Yes, in June we're gonna have all of our spouses on. Hopefully not next to each other, because I don't want to get hit all the time. But we will have all of our spouses on an episode of It's So Road in June. You can
And-
find out what it's like to live with Linda J. Hahn.
Why just me?
Well, because I know what it's like to live with Stevie.
That's we've been together enough.
Yeah, so you'll be able to ask them all kinds of questions, and they'll answer it with no sugarcoating.
Well, we'll see.
Yes, we'll see.
Yeah. So it should be. Maybe we should entice them. Questions. If we answer your question, maybe we'll give them a free downloadable pattern.
Ooh, that would be good.
That'd be good.
Jillian will put together a Google form so you can submit the questions ahead of time. So
Yeah.
that will
Not
appear
gonna
in the
let them
form.
practice.
Oh. No, we won't let them know if the questions are ahead of time.
No. So yeah, and he's not sharing my recipe for any of my gourmet dinners. I'm telling you right now.
The form will be up next week. Next week, Jillian will have the form up on It's So Road for you. And you know what? I think it's very easy to get the recipe for Linda's cooking. I will divulge that one. I've never partaken, but I've heard enough over the last couple months. I can pretty much replicate those recipes.
Yeah.
I think a monkey could replicate my.
Of the three of us, Matt's probably the best cook. I'm probably second. And sorry, Linda.
All right, well, come back next week to enjoy a great episode of It's So Road, minus me. I won't be here, but you'll have Linda and Stevie guiding your way through Quilter's Trek. As always, stay safe, get your vaccine, and wear your mask, and I hope we will all be together soon.
And we'll see you on Road at Home, hopefully.
We'll see you on Road at Home starting on Friday.
Right.
All right, everyone, take care, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.